Okay, we're back. It's COMP391. It's week 8, lesson 8. I guess it'd be part 1 because we kind of did, in day 1, we did the rest of our reviews, right? And I wanted to kind of handle with you guys. By the way, all those things we mark by the time you get back from break. That's my scope. I want to kind of get all that stuff marked up, so you're going to have at least some marks before in and around midterm. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing. If I'm going to do, I'm talking about logic bricks again, and again I've been focusing the last couple weeks and then this week as well on logic bricks. I want to start off with kicking off Blender from scratch, and I think I'm going to turn down the lights. We'll do a basic design again, right? So we're talking about our basic, but I want to import something that's found from somewhere else this time. So I've been using this block as an example. And this time what I want to do is I want to use some kind of ship, right? So let us find a starship mesh, spaceship mesh online, right? First I want to delete my mesh that's already here. So I got nothing in here. My Blender is empty, right? Now I'm going to go online, right? And we're going to make a little spaceship game, right? So let's do that. Let's get kind of a spaceship mesh. That's what I'm searching for. So let's do that, spaceship mesh. And if I go skip down to images, right, I got a couple of meshes here, right? Now this is cool, right? There's some forums and everything else so you can get these spaceship meshes, right? Or different shapes, if you will, like for engines and stuff like this. You can certainly do this. Like 3docean.net might have something. Maybe there's some free objects. This one is, to buy this one is like 35 bucks. I ain't gonna buy it. No way. Right? But I've got some really cool 3D stuff. One of them is 3D Warehouse. Let's go to 3D Warehouse. It's called 3dwarehouse_sketchup.com. And 3D Warehouse has SketchUp meshes you can download, but you need SketchUp. I'm not going to do this. I need SketchUp to kind of convert them into something I can use for Blender. So if you're a SketchUp person, right, you can certainly download objects like this and load them in. This is made for SketchUp though, so it won't work for us. The other one that we can go to is this one here, tf3dm.com. Go there. This is quite cool what you can get here. So here we've got a bunch of different meshes, right? And I want to look for spaceship, right? So if I look for spaceship, it's going to search, and if it finds anything, hopefully it will. There we go. And there's some up here that are paid, but there's a bunch here that's free, right? So you know what? I want to kind of choose something that I like. Like for example, this is neat. This is like a UFO. I can certainly take that, or some kind of other kind of spaceship. You guys choose whatever you like. Like for example, this Justice League flying vehicle. There we go. I'll choose this one. Now when I go here, there's some tricks to this, so bear with me while we do it. Right? So first time we're really downloading a mesh from somebody else together, right? And one day when they actually respond, okay, here we go. So here's my mesh. Let's take a look on the right. It says downloads 2380, upvotes, and blah 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 software, and then it says non-hexagon animator days 3D, right? That's what it's for. That's the software that it handles. Do you see Blender in there? The answer is no. So this won't work. We'd have to convert it again from Animator or Dazed or Days 3D, DAZ 3D is what it is, right? To convert this thing into something we can use. We can't use this one. I'm just showing you this is how it works, right? I got TIE fighters already. I want to kind of choose one that works. So here's there's a Wrath starship. I want to choose something that's not so bad. Kind of a neat little design. Here's Sun Glider. Okay, Sun Glider. This might work for us. And if you notice, software, it says hexagon animator, Days 3D view. But the thing is, it's also the type that you have to look at. And the type is an OBJ, right? OBJ. OBJ is okay for Blender. That works. If I click download, right? Please wait a bunch of seconds. Now it might get you to oh yeah, I got all these ads that are going to happen. And when I do, I get this OBJ image. Now I'll tell you right now, I'll get a big package for this one. Here we go. Take a look. I get this zip file, and I'll just call this, I'll name it properly, so I'll say Sun Glider. Right, it'll go into my downloads and press save. Okay, cool. I got my Sun Glider. Let's unzip it and get rid of my zip file because I don't want that. And in my Sun Glider, I have this folder with a bunch of JPEGs, an OBJ, and a material, MTL, if you notice, right? Okay, I want to kind of include this thing. I got some maps, by the way. I got some maps. I want to include the material and my OBJ inside my Blender, these two files, OBJ and material. Now you might have other kinds of files. So now remember, when I go to Blender to import this thing, I got an empty Blender document. I'm going to go File, Import. And now if you notice, I have, these are the types I can import. DAE, which is Collada, right? 3D Studio Max, right? FBX, which is the one we really want. We want FBX a lot. That's from Autodesk, right? Motion Capture, BVH, Stanford, I'm sorry, PLY. But this one, Wavefront, is a standard one we use a lot. So let's choose this one. Okay, now I'm going to point to where it is, which is in here. And under Sun Glider, in the right folder, I'm going to choose OBJ and press Import. Okay, now I don't see anything, do you? And here's another one to look at. When I look at here, to notice that I have something, see right here, I got these things going on, right? Well, I have to zoom out, man. I got to zoom way out. I got to zoom so way out because my ship is way over here. This is my ship that I'm going to be using for my stuff, right? That I've imported. Take a look. Okay, that's my ship. That's the ship that I'm going to use now for my game that I'm making, right? Okay, cool. It has a little bit of material, but remember, I'm looking at this as a solid. So in order for me to see this, I need to see this as a material. And also, it's massive, right? These two things are highlighted. I want to do a couple things. I want to definitely scale it down, right? So I'm going to click S for scale and scale it all the way down until it's more something I can bite into a little bit. Even that's too big, right? But you see I'm starting to get a little bit of lighting now because my light's starting to get effective. And I want to remember how I look at things. I look at things like this. Right now it's pointing down towards me. That's something I got to change as well. So this is what my ship looks like right now. Right? All right, cool. Well, where's my material? So if I go to World, if I go to Material, you notice I don't have any material on here at all, right? And there's different piece parts to the whole ship, right? Like for example, if I click this one and move this one around, I see this one part is right here, and the other part is right here. The ship and looks like the cockpit are so totally different right here. So I'm just going to undo, right? But there's no material. I've got my material, right? But if you notice, there's nothing here. It's like I've got a material that's applied right here, but I'm looking at the material one. If I go rendered, right? And again, I'm going to look at the rendered view, right? This is my rendered view, and I do see a little bit of a stencil here and everything else. I do see that. So there is a bit of a stencil on my ship in rendered form. Now remember, where did I get it from? Got it from here. I got it from T3 TF 3DM, and I looked at ship and I searched for Sun Glider. I guess this is the way to get it to get it for you. Well, you can get any ship, any starship, right? And now it's there, right? But I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing all the design work. And remember, I want to look at this in Blender Game, right? So I want to go Blender Game, which changes it again. I got to go back to Material, which is it gives me a little bit of that texturing. So I got my texture, and it's still pretty darn huge, right? And I want to kind of select both of them. So this is the body of my ship. That's what it looks like. And it's separated by the cockpit. The cockpit and the body look the same. I want to kind of make them one object, right? So I want to kind of join them together for my purposes. So I'm going to take this one and join it to this one and press Control J. All right, so now it's one. And I want to call this player with a capital P. Okay, cool. Here's my player. It's still massive. Like if I look at it from the top, I'm going to put up my little keyboard. You can find a spaceship, any spaceship. But mine's called Sun Glider. That's the one I put. Sun Glider with a Y. Glider. Let's take a look at this. From top-down perspective, it's massive. Like it's really big, right? Like that's how big it is. I still got to make this considerably smaller than this because it's just too big, right? So I'm going to scale this right down. Here's my scale. Now when I do that, if I give this if I change this from static to character, that's okay. I want to make this dynamic. It's a ship. It's not a character, right? So here's dynamic. If I go N, if you look at some of these values here for scale, I'm at 0.15, like 0.015. So it's like 1.5% of what it really is. Why is this good? Why is it good to have a really big, massive object and then scale it down after? It's like anything else. If you take a picture, right, and I have a high resolution picture, I can scale it down. I got lots of detail, right? But if I go the other way around, I lose detail, right? It's bad. So I always try and make my models as big as possible and then I scale back down, right? I got a bit of problems though in this one, right? Because even if I move this down here, if my game board is this big, it's still massive. This thing is massive still, right? Sun Glider Mesh, is that what you Googled? I'm going to keep scaling down. I'm going to scale down till it's like, you know, ship, like this. Okay, so my scale is 0.006 at this stage. All right. Well, this is cool, but now I got to edit it. So I'm going to go edit in edit mode. Here I am. I'm going to rotate it in edit mode. And I want to do this in edit mode and not in object mode, because if I do it in object mode, it'll mess me up. So I'm in edit mode. I'm going to rotate it right along the z-axis, sorry, by 90 degrees. So now it points up. And I'm going to go back into object mode for a second. You see the rotation, right? Here's my X rotation, 90 degrees, right? Right? Look at it. This is bad, right? Because my rotation says 90 degrees here, right? This will mess up my coordinate system. Like for example, when I put in my left and right coordinates for this thing, if I start moving it left and right, right? And if I've rotated along my x-axis 90 degrees, I've got issues, which you're going to see in a second. But we got to talk about these things, because if you ever try and do this, you're like, I don't know, Tom, I don't know why this works. Well, this is what happens when we do this kind of thing, right? Okay, so here's my ship. And let's just go back out. I'm going to go back to top view. I'm going to get rid of the N in here. And now, you know what? I want to change my thing. There's a couple of things we didn't talk about. If I go to view, and go to toggle quad view, which is Control Alt Q. Here's what I get with my quad view. I don't know if you guys see this. Control Alt Q will take you to this view. All right, so I got my top ortho. And unfortunately, this one here, I want to change into perspective mode. Each view can have its own, perspective, so you can actually model in different ways. This is a quad view, very, very popular when it comes to modeling and looking at stuff. Control Alt Q, right, will get you back. So Control Alt Q will toggle between views, right? If you want to try that out. Okay, this is cool, right? What we're doing a little bit differently for this one here. So I'm going to kind of go in here. and I'm going to go to my top view again. And what I want to do down here is I want to expand this bottom section. So let's do that. Let's expand this bottom section like this. Take a look. So this bottom section, all I did was expand it up here. Now this one normally is an animation section, and we talked about animation last week a little bit, right? Just moving things around. I want to go to this little button right here on the left and change from here, right, from this one to Logic Editor. So I want to have my logic bricks down here now. So all in one screen, like so. And I've done that by just changing the view. On the bottom left, if you click this, on the bottom left-hand corner, and then go to Logic Editor. Logic Editor. Down here. So I've gone here to this bottom left corner and changed to Logic Editor. And I moved this piece up like this. So make some room for that Logic Editor by moving it up. Okay, now that I got my Logic Editor, I'm going to add my left and right controls. So I can move left and right. Let's try this out. So I'm going to say keyboard, add keyboard, and we'll do the same keyboard commands. A for left, and we'll do another one really quickly. And we're going to go D for right. Here's our D, right? And my actuator, I'm going to add 2 motion actuators that are going to use, instead of simple motion, right, for my ship, I can choose, well, this is, my ship is a character, right? So if I go to, or dynamic, it's dynamic right now. If you look at the physics type, it's dynamic and it's an actor. So I can go do simple motion down here, but I also have this other stuff down here, this torque and force and all this kind of stuff. Well, I want to move my location to the left, 0.2 blender units, and I connect it. And do the same thing, like if you remember how we did it to the right, we'll go motion, another actuator, and click on my right side. The other one didn't get connected. Sorry. That's weird. Let's undo those things. Let's kill those. I meant this one and this one. That was a weird connection. And this one's going to move to the right, 20 blender units, right? So now that I have those two connected only, right, and I'm going to just zoom out so I can see that's the bottom of my board. If I press P for play, it's going to fall, right? Because my ship doesn't have any kind of up and down motion whatsoever. There's nothing for it to land on, right? So if I want my ship in a two-dimensional fashion to go left and right without it falling, I need to provide some lift, right? I need to provide some lift. And I need to do that always. So what is the, if you know, remember there's a downward pressure for this thing to kind of go down, right? My ship will actually fall down 9.8 meters per second. Now, right now it's my physics is dynamic, but I can always make my physics static. So if I click on my ship and I change my physics type to static instead of dynamic, there we go. It won't fall anymore, right? But I can still move it. Watch. So I can still do this right and left. I can move it right and left, but it won't fall anymore because it's not dynamic anymore. It's a static object that I'm moving. Make sense? So is my ship. So I press play, and then I have that ability to move left and right. Okay. Now, if you notice, it works nice. Even if I zoom in here, right? If I press the 0 key, from my camera views all the way out here, right? 0 focuses on camera. I want to do a couple of changes here. I want to change my shading to GLSL to give me a better shading, right? In game mode. And I also want to lock my camera to view so I can swivel my camera a little bit. So I'm going to kind of pan my camera out. There we go. Pan it out. Like, I literally will. This isn't like just changing the focal length. This is physically moving my camera around, right? And then I'll undo the lock. Move this in. Okay, now if I go to camera view, if I focus on camera view, it looks like this. I get rid of my N. and I go, if I press play, now when I move right, left, and right, I see my my starship. As an example, my ship has this view. Now I'm in space, right? So this doesn't look like space to me. This looks like a, you know, the blackness, if you will, or it's gray, right? And the reason why it looks gray is because the way I've defined my world. So how do I change my world? Well, if you look at this little guideline here, this fourth one from the left, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the world. So my world color from a horizon right now, my horizon color is this really weird gray. If I want to make it look black, I got to change this thing. So I'm going to kind of double click on this, and I can just turn this right to black. So when I play the game, right, I can go P for play, and it's black now. So I'm in blackness of space. So I can do that, no problem. Now it doesn't roll. My ship doesn't do this. It doesn't kind of roll left and right. That's an animation. So every time I press left, I want to do this with my ship. Watch. This, right? When I press left. And then when I let go, I want it to kind of level out. And when I press right, I want it to do an animation that goes to the right. And then I want to level out again, right? So I could add an animation that I call whenever I press my left and right buttons. How do I do that? Well, we have to define the animation first of all, right? What these things mean. So, I mean, I could do that. For now, I'm going to leave it as is. How about firing a bullet? I want to fire a bullet. So every time I press the space bar or control or whatever, or my left mouse button, I press my left mouse button, it fires a bullet. Okay, let's think about this now. How do I fire a bullet? I'm not really firing a bullet. I have to create a new object. That's what's really happening, right? Okay, up until now, we haven't really talked layers. Take a look at this area right here, guys and girls and girl. See this area right here? This is showing different layers. If you notice, the visible layer right now is this top left layer right here, layer 0, if you will. If I click this one, it's another layer, right? I need to create my object, right, in the specific layer that I'm, another layer other than the main one. Okay, now first of all, where's my ship going to fire? Help me out here. Where's my ship going to fire its stuff from? These two things? Yeah. All right. How about for now, let's keep it simple, and it fires it from, like, you know, the middle of the bottom right here. So like one little laser, pew, pew, right, like that, right? Okay. So in order for me to do that, I gotta kind of zoom in here, right? And I'm gonna zoom in so I can see the top of the ship a little bit. Oops, a little too much. Okay. The other thing I want to do is I want to go to one side or another. There's where I want to shoot from, right here, right in this area right here. I want to kind of shoot my laser bolt, or my it'll be a missile or some kind of I don't know, a bullet that comes out of here. That's what it'll look like in the game. Okay, so this is where it's going to be. So what I need to do is kind of go into a right view. Take a look. So here's my right view, and I want to go into orthographic or 2D mode so I can see it in this on the side here, right? I want to position this thing so it's as close to my right view as possible. Take a look. Right? So now I want to focus my three-dimensional cursor right here. Remember, this is all tricks. So here's my three-dimensional cursor. Now I want to move a new object in there. So I'm going to go Shift A, and I want to kind of put in there an empty object. Now see where it says empty? This is something new. There's different ways I can do this. I can put a plain axis. I can put arrows. I can put a single arrow, right? These are different options that you can put here for an empty object. Let's just use a plain axis here. So this plain axis, right, if you notice, is an empty object, right, that appears in front of the ship, and it's called empty. But this is my spawn point. Empty. It literally is an empty container. That's what it is. Now if I look at it from the top, let's look at it from the top for a second. It's way over here. I got to center this axis so that it's in the front of the ship, right? So let's do that. Let's move it into the front of the ship. So I'm moving it right here. Right? Here's from the side, still looks okay, and here's from the front. Right? So the empty axis, I gotta make sure that it's centered so that it's exactly where it's supposed to be. Now it's hard to see because the ship itself has shadows on it. So for now, let's make this thing shadeless, just so I can see where the empty object is. And again, hard to see if I'm targeting the right area, because this is my front right here. So front. But I really want to look at the back, right? So I'm going to control this way, and I move this in. So it's shadeless right now. I want to see that there's no this object here, right? If you notice, this is the focal point. If I want to turn it into a simple design, let me go back to a mesh. I want my empty to be right in front of this thing. So I don't need any shading. This is what it's going to look like. So pretty much centered in the back. So let's go to the back view. And I want to go into, this is ortho mode, so it's not quite centered. There it is. From a top perspective, that's as close as I'm going to get. I want to move this thing closer, so it's almost touching. Because it's got to appear like it's almost on top of it, right? And that's the kind of where the gun area is going to be, right? So here's from the side what it looks like. It's almost on top of it. Look, not quite touching, but it's almost there. Okay, now this is a perfect place for me to create another object. I want to kind of go cursor to selected. So I'm going to go, because this is the object that I've got selected right now, right? I want to kind of say Shift S, cursor to selected. So it kind of puts my object, my cursor and my object in the same place. Because this is where I want to create my object, my missile, which is going to be round right now. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to say Shift A. I'm going to add in some kind of sphere. Let's say a UV sphere for now. Now it's massive. Take a look at it. It's massive. It's too big. It's eating up my ship. My ship is inside of it. Ah, right? It's like a big ice cream cone right now, right? So I gotta scrunch it up to make it really small. So I'm going to size up the right bullet. I'm going to zoom in here now, and I can do that by going in like this. That's still too big. Size it so that it's just big enough. And this is what I want it to be. I want it to kind of spawn here, and I want it to be this size. Now, if you want to match what I did, I reduced this thing in size to 0.02. The scale, sorry, my scale is 0.010 for my sphere. I want to add in for my sphere itself. By the way, guys, I am recording this thing. I want to add in a material, a default material, and I want to make this thing yellow, let's say, just to make it so it's bright. Yellow material. We'll add specularity. We'll make it really specular, so really shiny, like a shiny ball. And you know what? We'll give it an inner glow of its own. We'll make it so that it's an emitter. Make it shadeless, right? So it's like really, it's you can always see it. It's always going to be yellow. It's not going to be affected by light. The other alternative is, instead of shadeless, to make this emit its own light, like actually make it glow, right? Like really bright, like this. So you can make it bright, like an emitter of 2. That's the other thing you can do. So it's an emitter. Okay, cool. So this is where this is. Okay, I've got my object. It's called sphere. I want to change this thing to bullet. Just rename it, bullet. Okay, cool. Once I've renamed this thing as bullet, I want to move it into another layer, right? So I'm going to go object, right? I'm waiting for you guys to catch up here. You ready? We're going to do this again one more time after, don't worry. What I want to do is I want to move this thing, right? This object, right? If you press the M key, I want to move it to this other layer right here, the second layer. Press the M key and move it to another layer. Now it'd have to be, there you are. You have to be in object mode. Okay, now it's gone. It's disappeared, right? That's key, because now that I've moved it into another layer, I can call upon it. Okay, cool. Let's go into that other layer. All right, so here's my object, right? Here's my bullet. I want to zoom in on it, right? So I want to kind of go into kind of the top view, and I want to zoom in on that bullet, wherever that bullet is. Right now, I've got to zoom in on the right layer. So there's my bullet. Right here it is. Right, here's the top view. I'm in the other layer. Right, and I'm going to make sure that I'm in orthographic mode, so you can see what I'm talking about here. I want to be in the right orientation. I'm upside down here. Hold on. Now, the challenge with this one is there is no light, right? There we go. There's my grid. This is what you normally would see, right? The grid, and there's your bullet. My bullet's quite small, right? Because it's going to be small, because my ship is small, right? Okay, so here's the question for you. What do we want this to happen? So when this thing gets generated, when this bullet gets created, we want it to stream in a direction. So here's the logic brick for this bullet. Always move in a direction. Okay, with no code. So I'm going to create a new logic brick. I'm going to go into logic bricks down here for my bullet. I'm going to add a sensor, and it's going to be called always. Right, my always sensor. My always means that it happens all the time, every frame it kicks off. Okay, and my bullet is going to, it's not going to move. I'm going to give it like torque. Right, it's a different kind of bullet. My bullet, here's my bullet. From a physics perspective, it can't be static. It's got to be some kind of rigid body, right? It's going to be an actor, right? I'm going to have collision bounds for the bullet, right? Right now, box collision is fine because it's so small, right? And I want to add an actuator, which is a motion actuator. What? Actor basically allows you to do collisions and all that kind of stuff. If you hover over it, it actually gives you what it does. It's detected by near and radar sensor. So if I have a near or radar sensor, it'll detect that there's a collision coming. All right, so if I'm going to link these two together, I want to add, instead of location, location physically moves your object a bunch of units left and right. It doesn't really push anything around. It just moves it. That's all it does. We want this bullet to be cast, like almost like with force, right? So there's a couple ways we can do this. One is force, and we want it to go up the y-axis, right? Up the y-axis, like, let's try 10 and see what happens. So here's 10 force. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit more so I can see the bullet. And I want to play. So that's what happens to it. See it? Let me go into material view so you can see it. Ready? Watch. That's 10 force. So it kind of moves on its own. Too small force, right? Doesn't do much. From the side, so you can see it from the side, there it is. If I press P, it goes like this. It goes just down, right? Why? Because I've got 10 force on it, and the force of gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. So I've got to go, instead of 10, it's got to be even much greater than 10. It's got to be like 100. So let's put 100 force in the Y direction, not the X direction. X direction moves left and right, right? Now if I press play, it goes way over there, right? So it's bang, but it still falls. See how it went like this? Still goes down because not enough force. Still goes down. So let's put even more force in there. Let's like put 200. Right, now this is really fast. Bang, right? Still has a downward arc. And it's a force as opposed to a torque. Okay, let's see what the difference is between force and torque. There's also linear velocity, which is actually a little better than force. So let's go force to 0. Let's try linear velocity and put that at 10 and see what that does. Linear velocity, P. That works better, right? Linear velocity means you're getting straight velocity on the y-axis. It's actually adding speed to your y-axis. That's different than a force. Right? Okay, cool. So linear velocity is good. All right. So that's what's going to happen. So this thing, whenever it gets created, it's going to get a linear velocity of 10 blender units. Okay, so that's all this thing does. Okay, cool. So now, when I press the control button, it's going to be created, this thing, right, in that spawning place. An example of this, I'm going to shift back over to this screen here. This is where it's going to be created, right here in my empty. Right? My empty is the spawning position. I'm going to change this thing to spawn a bullet spawn. Bullet spawn. This is where my bullet spawning location is going to be, right? So when I press the the control bar, my bullet spawn in this location, right? It's going to create a bullet. It's not going to be the ship that I'm clicking on. I'm going to add another sensor. I'm going to add a keyboard sensor. Or sorry, you know what? Let's make it a mouse. When I press the mouse button, click on a mouse, and if you notice here, the left button is selected, and on my, I'm still holding on the empty here, right? And on what? I mean, empty? Make a bullet spawn. I'm gonna do it right now. We're gonna do it. Empty object. Empty object. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I'm gonna go add actuator, right? And I'm gonna go in terms of, instead of motion and all that stuff that I had before, right? I'm going to add in an action. I'm going to go to an action. Or is it edit object? I can't remember now. It's edit object, not an action. Edit object, and I'm going to add object. Okay, so here's edit object, add object, right? I'm going to connect these two together, right? And then the object, connect these two together. Add object, the other object is going to be my bullet. Here's my bullet. That's off screen right now. So my bullet, I can add velocity here if I want to as well. I'm not going to. I'm just going to say add this object when I press my left mouse button. Okay, cool. Let's try this out. So I'll press my P for play, press my left mouse button, and it fires every time. Right? Now here's a problem, right? Let's move this thing so I can see it like a spaceship again. Here's my spaceship, and I press my P for play, and I do this. Right, it's pretty small. I may have to make that bigger. And now I move to the left. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter where I move because my spawning point hasn't moved. It's still spawning from the middle, right? And you know what? This bullet's pretty darn small. I can't see it. So this is a good test for what it was. Let me go back to my bullet for a second and zoom in. So I kind of look at my bullet. Highlight that, zoom in. My bullet is too darn small, right? I'm going to make this bullet larger, like by twice. So I'm going to go N. And right now my my dimensions, or my scale, is 0.1. I think I'm going to increase the scale, to 0.2, 0.02. There we go. That might be a little better. Now if you notice, it's a box collision, and you can't tell. It's too small, right? Okay, let's go back to my other ship here, and go back out, and zoom in, zoom out here, right? And when I press play, P for play, and I press the left mouse button, now it's more visible, right? So it's my visible. If I hold it down, it doesn't do anything. I have to press the left mouse button all the time. But if I move again, it's still over there. My spawn point hasn't changed size. I gotta parent my spawn point to my ship. Right? So here we go. So here's my spawn point. I'm going to zoom in. Right? I'm going to select my spawn point, my bullet spawn, and I got to do it in this order. First select the spawn point, and then the ship. Right? So there's the ship is selected second, and then I put Control P, right, to parent, and I want to parent object, parent to object. Okay, so now if you notice, my player inside of it has a bullet spawning point. It's actually layered inside. Now, this is cool, right? I want to go to the top again, and let's just change it to user perspective mode again. So here's my perspective, right? Control P. To object, yeah, object. Just object. No, object. So now when I press P, right, take a look. If I move my object, and if I press mouse button, so first of all, let's press P. And hey, how come it's not, my left mouse button's not working anymore? Well, there's a couple of issues. Take a look at this. First of all, I'm going to kind of unselect all. My bullet spawn has this thing that's striking off my bullet. Here's my bullet, right? And when I press P for play, and I press fire again, It's not working because my bullet spawn now is inside, physically inside my parent object. Oops. I can undo that, watch, or I can unparent it, right? And show you that again, watch. So I unparent, and the reason why this is happening is because my object, actually I can fix it, my object, my parent, is actually interfering with my bullet, right? It's actually not going anywhere because it's thinking it's a solid object that it's bouncing into. It's not going anywhere. So the way to fix this thing is, first of all, to go into my bullet, a couple things. My bullet itself. So I'm going to go click on my bullet spawn. And right now where it says, see where it says no collision? My bullet. From a physics perspective, you want to make it so that it's a dynamic object. That's number one. This is my bullet. It's an actor, right? But it's a ghost. Now, what ghost is? An object does not react to collisions like a ghost. Like that's what it does. It doesn't react to collisions. So it's going to go through things, right? I can have collision bounds and all that stuff, right? But it's not going to react. This thing is not going to react to collisions. Let's see if this works now. If I press play, it's going to kick off. That worked, right? And the reason why it's like that is if I go to the object itself, the bullet, and here on the bottom is my bullet spawn, but if I select my bullet, if you notice, I've got nothing like before, right? My bullet spawn point is what I'm looking at. My bullet, which is up here, still needs to have some basic force, and I have linear velocity that's kind of put on this thing. So my linear velocity is there. My bullet spawn point itself hasn't changed. Now I may have to also change something else over here. Let's try this out. I'm going to go back to my first layer. And now take a look at this. Why is this massive like this? This big place. Well, my bullet spawn, right? Not my bullet, but my bullet spawn is dynamic. That's wrong. I don't want it to be anything. I want no collision of this thing. My bullet spawn itself. That's the bullet spawning place. No collision. So if I go back to dynamic, sorry, I made a mistake probably. Take this collision bounds off. I go back to no collision. If I go to P and press space and press my left mouse button, it doesn't respond because it's trying to create something, right, that is bouncing back. Let's try this just for a second. Yeah, I knew it would do that. Okay, so let me show you that again one more time before I mess up even more than I've messed up already. I want to unparent something. So how do I do that? Okay, so I want to go to, I'm looking at I have to select my bullet spawn first. Got to go to my object. I'm going to go to parent, right? And I believe it's clear parent. Okay, Alt P again. Okay, now if I press it now, and I press play, look at this. Oh, actually I added this in. Hold on a second. And it could be because I'm touching. I'm too close. My bullet is spawning, but it's spawning inside my parent, and it's bouncing around. Right? And I'll show you what I mean by that. So my bullet spawning location is right here. Right? And I got to move my spawning location a little bit outside of my parent. So this is where it is, right here. And I got to move this just a tad forward because it's too close to my parent. My bullet's going to spawn and it's going to be caught into my parent. Like right there would be fine. See what I just did? I just moved it away from my parent a little bit. Okay, let's try that again. Now it works, right? Now you can see it flash in and out. Right? Let's zoom out again so I can see it firing. Yeah, now it works no problem. Okay, good. Now let's parent it together. So I'm going to parent this one with my player. So bullet spawn, I'm going to shift my player. Oh, let's try that again. Bullet spawn and shift right click on my player and then control P for parent. Oops, Control P for parent object. And now when I press play, I got nothing. It's probably still too close. Let's move it even further up. Sorry guys, I want to make sure that this is the reason. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if I can add. I wonder if it's because of the position of my object, or if it's because of its. I think it's because it's parented, but it shouldn't be that way. The other way is you can parent the other way around. So if I go Control P, or sorry, Alt P, and clear parent for a second, and then instead of doing it this way, I can do this and this. This is kind of weird. I Control P the other way around. Let's see if that works. The bullet spawn point. If I press P, yeah, that's the way. Then if I turn to this point, it goes over here, but it's not. Kind of moves one way or the other. It's the logic bricks. That's what's happening is the logic bricks are getting confused because I'm pairing my my bullet spawning with my parent, and I'm not moving my bullet spawn. I'm only moving my parent around, right? So that's the other thing. So no parenting. That's the other way we can do it. Sorry, let me just clear the parent there, and I'll show you how it works. And I'll copy over the logic bricks, so you can do that too. So here's my my bullet spawn. Yeah. Yeah. You try it out.
After you parent the bullet spawn under the player, you change player to static as physics type.
I think I already did. Yeah. Hold on, I'll follow your directions. Hold on a second. So here, I'm just unparent this guy again. Clear parent. Okay, so here's my bullet spawn. What do you want me to do? Parent the player.
Bullet spawn under player.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Control P for that. Press Object. Now it says Keep Transform, and I'm going to think that might be the other issue. Keep Transform. That might be the problem. But let's just put parent for now. What else? So now it's underneath the player.
Yeah, just put player as static.
And I think I have that. See? Here's my player, static. Because if I press it now and I go blah, 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 it won't work, right? But, and it worked for you?
Yeah, sort of. It's kind of glitchy.
Yeah, it's glitchy, right? So let's do the other way around. So I will undo. So now my bullet spawn's gonna be on its own, right? However, let's bring it closer to the player, like down here. What I'm gonna do for my bullet spawn is, right now it only has logic bricks. So I'm gonna move this in a little bit so you can see. It only has logic bricks that allow you to do a left mouse button, and it doesn't move with the player, right? So the other trick to do is copy the logic bricks from my player to my bullet spawn. So when my player moves, my bullet spawn moves instead of parenting. So here's my player, and I believe it is object. And I gotta remember how to do it now because it's been a while. No, it's in here. What is it again? It's logic. It's copy the logic brick around. Mirror, create. And of course I don't remember how to do it. Sorry guys. Because I didn't have that in mind. I had it in mind to do something else totally than this. That's why I don't remember how to do that. Let me look it up. Oh, here it is. Copy logic bricks. Game, copy logic bricks. Here it is. And then I'm going to go to my empty object. I'm going to go game, object, game I gotta paste my logic bricks in here, right? So how do I do that? Quick fur, that's what I want. I want quick fur, buddy. Clear game properties. No, I don't want that. I want to copy my logic bricks from here into here. So let's just, I'm going to look it up. So because it's been a while. So copy Blender, copy logic bricks. This will do it. If I copy my logic bricks, I can actually do them myself by hand too. If I add the same ones in, but I want to between objects in Blender. This is what I want. It says it says select the objects you want to add the blocks to in the outliner. Hold shift between selecting objects. While still holding shift, select the layer you want to copy the bricks from. It should look something like this. It doesn't have a picture, no picture. And once you've selected that, you should see that in the logic editor, the topmost logic bricks are the ones you want to duplicate. Once verified, click the object menu from the 3D view and select game object, copy logic bricks. Okay. So in other words, going back to Blender, it means this. So I want to click this first, and then here's the one I want to click to, and I want to go object, game, copy logic bricks. All right, and then when I undo, deselect all, and select this, right? And I bet you it went the wrong way. Let's see. Yeah, it did. I'm going to undo that one. Because it added only that one logic. It actually killed the other ones. Yeah, I don't want that. That's for sure. I don't like that at all. So what I could do, here's the other thing I could do. I could make it so that when I have both objects selected, this is what sometimes people do as well. So I've got both objects selected here, right? And here are my logic bricks. And right now what I have is my mouse object, my mouse left click right now is on my, let's do another one. There it is. My mouse is on my bullet spawn, but I could put my mouse on my player, right? And then what I'm going to do is have my edit object create on my bullet spawn. So I got to do one of these. Take this away, and on my player, add a sensor, which is a mouse sensor. Here's my mouse sensor, left mouse button. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it to my bullet spawn object, right? So this is my actuator is on my my bullet spawn location, right? But my mouse control is on my player. So what it looks like is this. See how it says bullet spawn over here? Now let me see if that works. Yeah, baby. Now let's see if it moves. No, baby. Okay, now let's see if I can connect them. So, Control P, and press Object, and then press P, and no firing. Yay! That's how you do it, though. The idea is creating a spawn point for your bullet, and then it fires when you click the location. Does it work for you? Yes?
Try having the bullet spawn as dynamic.
The actual bullet spawn itself?
Yeah.
Instead of static? Or instead of no collision?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that. So I'll go dynamic. And then press play. Yeah. Sorry, say that again? Well, I could just create another keyboard sensor there, so whatever I move left, I move left. Yeah, I could do that. That's the other way. That's what I was thinking. I just wanted to make it so it was a quick and dirty, right? Because there's a way to do it so you don't have to do that. You don't have to kind of create that that effect. So let me undo that. So I'll unparent it. So I'll go up. There it is. And then on my bullet spawn, my mouse will move with my bullet spawn, but then my bullet spawn will also move my my keys will also move my my bullet spawn around as well. So I'll create a couple of other motion. Like so, right now my bullet spawn is the one selected, right? And I'll add. If you notice, player has these, and bullet spawn has these. That's why they're all mixed up, which is totally fine. I'll take this one away, so it doesn't have that. So this is just my bullet spawn. I'll add a mouse sensor again to this one. Here's my mouse sensor, connect it like normal, left mouse button. Like you said, I would create 2 more keyboard sensors, right? So here's my first keyboard sensor. So I'll go same keyboard sensors as before. So A for left, and then the next one is keyboard sensor D for right. I did this a different way, by the way, guys, last time. And my simple motion, again, because my bullet spawn is just a left and right motion, it would be simple motion. So left. An activator where?
Activator on bullet spawn.
I could. So then I could cross over them again. Like I do the same thing. It's the same thing, same actuator. So I go same motion. But the problem is that you'd have to have the motion with the same buttons. It's the same thing, Igor. Okay, now, there's no parenting, but both the bullet spawn and the my ship are responding to keyboard clicks, right? Let's try this out. So P, so move this and then fire, move this and fire. See, it works. So yeah, that's the other way to do it. But truthfully, you should be able to parent them, especially when it comes to a camera. Like sometimes what we do is we parent a camera so it looks behind the image. So now you're moving like this, right? You're moving things around. And when we do a first-person shooter example, right? Right now we're doing a spaceship example. But the first-person shooter example, like we said, is here, right? Inside the UI, we're gonna create a UI that's flat, so it looks like there's like you're looking at the HUD, right? Which is a separate image altogether, and we can create an overlay, so the HUD comes when we press play, is overlaid always on top of the object. Well, there's another way of doing this, but that's definitely I think that's like the dirty trick that we're going to be using for today, right? Because it works. All right, so if I zoom out now, I have a ship and I have a bullet spawn, and the bullet spawns is get it going. So take a look, Igor. So I've got my ship. When I move now, right, it moves in this direction. Now, if you notice, it's pretty. Now, when we test it, it's pretty slow. The bullet comes out is pretty slow. We want to increase the speed of the bullet. I'm going to just click on the bullet to do that. I'm going to go bullet, and right now my speed is 10. We're going to go like to, I don't know, 50, right, and go back to play, and then now it's much faster. Still, I don't see that this is fast enough necessarily, or sorry, big enough. The bullet still seems quite small to me. But I can fix that by going back to the bullet, back into this other layer, and zooming in. And I'm going to go back into my end to see what it is so I can tell you the value. I'm going to double it again. I think it's still too small. I'm going to go to 0.04. So I've doubled the bullet size again. And that's okay. So if I go back into my ship, zoom out, and now if I press P for play, first I'll take this away, press P for play, and then start firing. Now it's a little bit more realistic, a little bit more playable. I mean, maybe not realistic, but playable. So P for play, I move and fire. Right, here we go. Simple firing mechanism for bullets, and that's what I wanted to show you guys today. So when you use Blender, when you want to make motion happen all the time by setting up a sensor, what you want to do is create a spawn point. Right? Now think about this. If I can create a spawn point so something can spawn, it has to come from another layer. It can't come from the same layer as the one you're in right now. Right? That's one of the rules. And the other thing is you can make it spawn in a random fashion every so often. It doesn't have to come every right away. So let's say, for example, you want to spawn a random ship that comes out from nowhere, right? And every so often, right now we're seeing this in 3D, right? But let's put it into 2D perspective. So now I'm going to go into this 2D mode for my ship. So here's my ship, right? And if you notice, my ship is right here, right? I'm going to move it so this down towards the bottom of my screen. I'm going to make a 2D game now, and I want to make it so that it fires up here. So if I press play, right, now it looks like it's a 2D game. You can't tell, right? When I press, kind of my left mouse button, it clicks and it fires my bullet into oblivion. No pun intended. Right? So there it goes. Look. Good. So that's the first key of my 2D game. The next one I want to do after that, I'm going to just stop the movie now. I'm going to create a random dude that spawns in a random location, right? Someplace it's going to spawn in different locations at a random time interval. And we're going to make an enemy ship to do that. And then we're going to kill the enemy ship with our bullets. When the bullet hits the enemy ship, it dies. It gets destroyed. How do we do that? And then we're going to add to the score. So let's stop recording for now and take a short break.